That was a heck of a introduction and probably not very deserving. I was like, wow, that's great. So who here was here for Guys Talk last night? Show of hands. Cool. How was that for a talk? Round of applause for that man? Yeah, I think so too. Okay, so to kick this off, first I want to tell you a little bit about me. I did a quick stint in the Air Force. Once I got finished with the Air Force, I decided to move on, do some ground reconnaissance stuff. And then, barring that, I decided that I was going to be an astronaut. Being an astronaut was kicks, but not. What did you say yesterday? Right before the baseball thing? Last but not least, I won the World Series. Okay, all kidding aside. We've only got about an hour with you folks today, and it's going to be like drinking from a fire hose. I added about 20 minutes worth of stuff last night, and I couldn't figure out what else to get rid of, so my decision was I'm just going to talk faster. So that means you're just going to have to listen really, really, really fast, and we should get through it by 7. Ready? Oh, fuck. There's this little thing called enthusiasm that we want to see coming from this room. So when I say, are you ready? Yes. Halfway. Are you ready? Now I'm going to get somewhere. All right, so I got a little confession to make first. Lean guys, Center for Lean Learning, lean everywhere. I actually don't even like lean. I love lean. Lean is the answer. It's my answer and definitely can be your answer. So the goal of today, we've got 1 hour. My goal is always to give you something that you can take back and actually use. I think talks without action are just entertainment, and I don't want that. I want you guys to take action. So the first thing that we're going to do is make sure that you can see waste like never before. And it should be really easy because 95% of everything you do every day is waste. So when you leave here tonight, you should have the blinders right off. Show of hands, who knows the 7 deadly wastes off by heart? Shocker. Okay, guy knows them. This is good. This is great. I was really worried that everyone would put their hand up and I'd just sit back down and that would be the end of it. The other thing that we're going to talk about today is a tool that I like to use, and God forbid, if you want to reach out and talk to me anytime, you're going to need to know this because it's going to be my first question. So we're going to talk about that. So you're going to get the waste and a little tool, which is on your piece of paper. You can either play along or just take that piece of paper and put it up on your wall and stare at it. You'll be amazed what comes out of that by the end of this. So with only an hour to talk at you as much as I can, I can't teach you a whole lot, but what I am hoping to do tonight is to start to plant some seeds. That's it. I want to plant the seeds. You guys got to take them back. You got to make them grow. Sound good?
Yes! Yeah!
Sound good? Yeah. That's what I'm talking about. All right, let's get started. So this little piece of paper that you have on your desk was the most amazing thing that I've ever seen. And it was taught to me by a good buddy of mine and totally changed the path of my career. We call it the Manufacturing Continuum. So let me walk you through this quick. On one side of the continuum, we have engineered to order products. On the other side of the continuum, we have high volume repetitive. And in the middle, we've got what we call complex discrete. So what do we typically make if we're over here? We make the whole kit and caboodle. So show of hands, anyone, high custom. Don't make anything twice. Okay, cool. That's a tough gig, but you're on the engineered to order side where you do everything, all the engineering, all the building. You're only making one of whatever it is, a guitar with Johnny Cash's name on it, and only Johnny Cash will ever let you make it for him. On the other end, we've got high volume repetitive, and typically we make parts. Who's on the high volume repetitive side? Show of hands. I don't know if I believe you yet, but okay, cool. And in the middle, we've got usually typically assembly shops, and they will do some engineering and buy some of their high volume repetitive parts. So in this realm here, you're talking like kitchen cabinet manufacturers would be a good example, because they buy their hinges, they buy their doors, their drawers. Those would be considered high volume repetitive parts, and they do some engineering. So it's just like a sliding scale. You with me so far? I'll let that one slide. Okay, so who do we typically need? We talk about our people if we're here. What kind of people do we need? What kind of people do we need?
Engineers.
Yeah, engineers, definitely. What about on the shop floor?
Smart people, skilled.
Absolutely, craftsmen. We need craftsmen when we're on that side. When we're on this side, what do we need? You guys got to be a lot faster if you want to be out of here by 7. What do we need on this side of the continuum?
Automation.
Automation, when we're talking about people, though? What do you need? Operators, okay? So on one side, we need craftsmen. On the other side, we need operators. And if we're in the middle, we need a mix of those people. So where do we put our creative genius when we're on this side of the continuum? Because we want to banish that thought first and foremost that if you're on this side, you're just like a robot. All my workers are just robots, just doing all day, same thing. Not true. Creative genius must be applied all the way across this manufacturing continuum. So when we're on this side, on the engineer to order side, we're putting our creative genius into our products. You're only going to make one, better be good. When we go to this side of the continuum, on the high volume repetitive side, we need our people to put their creative genius into the process. So, and in the middle, of course, mix 80-20, and depending if you're on this side, it's 80-20, and this side, it's 20-80, whatever. You know what I'm talking about. So, if you map your company on the little chart here. Now, here's where it became interesting for me. I put this thing on my wall, and first thing, let's map our products. So if you think of your products, where do they fall on the continuum, and put an arrow. Or mentally play along if you don't want to write it down on your piece of paper. Next, your people. It's one you have to put a little thought into and be like, wait a second, where are my people? Like if you take a snapshot of your whole factory, do you have all of them are craftsmen, or are they all operators, or are they somewhere in between? And put an arrow on the chart where your people are. And this is the one that really got me, was my passion. Put an arrow where your passion is. So for example, do you like to take one stick of wood and massage that into the most perfect, beautiful, whatever thing that's going to be on the wall? Or do you enjoy making those super high-end custom pieces of furniture? You're only ever going to make one, and you absolutely love that? Your arrow is on that side. If today you are standing on the mezzanine at the factory tour watching lumber go by at a zillion miles an hour and you loved it, you're on the other end. And you can be anywhere in between. If you're like, well, I like to make, 100 of things, but then after 100 I'm kind of tired of it, you might be on that side. So we're playing along. We've got arrows all over the place. What do you think would happen to a company that looked like this? Tell me.
Probably not be particularly successful.
Absolutely. Not being particularly successful. Thank you for the reminder. That was my company for 25 years. Sucked. But it wasn't until I drew this and looked at it on the wall that I realized, oh my God, this has so much more to do than just with my factory. This has to do with my people, and this has to do with my passion. And so for me, my passion was way, way high volume repetitive, but I was in the commercial millwork gig where we were building custom commercial millwork, and I wondered, why does life suck? And it wasn't until I did that that life started to get good. So what I want to, or hopefully you will do, is take this thing, put it on your wall, map it, and think about it. If all of your arrows are in a hemisphere, awesome. You're on the right track, you're doing the right thing, perfect. If they're not, I highly recommend figuring out which one you want to shuffle and make sure the passion one doesn't move. Because if you're not passionate, if you don't get up every day, like I get up every day and you have no idea, all I think about is MDF doors. I get home and all I talk about is MDF doors. I go to sleep and all I dream about is MDF doors. Whatever, that's my thing, right? So how I use this and how you can use this would be a pricing multiplier. So if you know you're here and someone calls and is like, you're pricing this job, but you know the work is like over here, that's not going to be good for you. So have a little multiplier in there. That drives the price up. You don't have to say no to the customer, but you can give them a price that maybe they say no to. Or, God forbid, if you get that work, you still stand a chance of making money on it. Hiring people. This was huge. I have this on my wall. And someone comes in, and I'm like, okay, I know what position I'm hiring for, and I just draw this thing quickly, and I'm like, where are you? You just spent 20 minutes telling me how much you loved hand carving that canoe and paddling it up and down the river, and how you've made all the paddles yourself and engraved them all yourself, and I need a machine operator. Your arrow is nowhere near where I need you to be. So right away, I'm able to judge people just by what they're telling me. I just plot them where I think they're on that graph. And lo and behold, it helps me to decipher getting the, like Guy was talking about, getting the people on the bus, but now you need to get them in the right seat. So this is a tool to help get them in the right seat. What work to take on. If you teach this to your estimators or even just a mental model for you, I sketch this thing probably like 3 times a day. Someone calls me, like, hey, I got this job. I'm like, shh. Oh, wait a minute. That work here, that work has an arrow here, and I know that I like things over here, so I'm not going to take that work on. And product development, this was huge for me when we realized that my arrow was way on the wrong side of this thing, and I said, oh boy, I'm in trouble. What are we going to do? So all we did was we looked at this continuum and we said, here's the machines we have, here's the building we have, what are all the things that we can build with those that fall on that side of the continuum? And lo and behold, we came up with countertops and doors. And so we launched a countertop and door company, quickly got rid of the countertops, but if I would have known what I know after today's tour, we might have done a lot better because those guys were really good. So product development, this is a cool tool for helping in that realm. And then finding your happy place. So you know where it is. You don't have to wonder or question each individual job coming in. You can just be happy all day, just like me. So I think that's it for this one. Any questions on that? The reason you'll need it, because if you call me and you're like, hey Brad, how's it going? You know, it's Mike from Mike Smith's Woodworking. I'll be like, where are you on the continuum? My first question. And then I know what we're talking about. Like, as soon as you tell me where you are on there, I already know what all your problems are. So we'll be able to have a better conversation. So hopefully this is a tool that you can use. It's a tool that I use all the time and I enjoy. Take it and go forth. Okay, on to some lean stuff. Basically, this is a slide for you to know that Brad didn't make this up yesterday in his garage. Me and Guy didn't dream it up on the plane on the way here. Lean's been around for a whole long time, like since the 1800s, I think. Eli Whitney, what's Eli Whitney famous for? Cotton gin. What else? Come on, you're all American, or most of you? Guns. So he started making guns and realizes that he could interchange the parts in his gun manufacturing operations, and that's pretty much, you know, well, it actually goes back further than that, but we're not here for a history lesson. Long story short, it's been around and it works. So what we want to make sure is that, just like Guy said, we have an open mind. His slides have big ears, big eyes, and you know, I like this one because Einstein, he says everything that is in our world right now is because that's how our brains are operating right now. So we need to, you know, almost physically compartmentalize that and say, okay, I'm here. I'm going to shelf what I think I know, and we're going to just bring in all kinds of new information and get rid of, hopefully, a whole pile of the problems that we created in our old state of mind. So we've got the 4 purposes of lean thinking. Once again, my good buddy Guy Busey had beat me to the punch yesterday. He touched on this, but it was a perfect intro because I actually want to delve into it a little bit deeper to understand how and why it works so well. So the 4 purposes of lean thinking are easier. What's the next one? Who was paying attention yesterday? Close, better, faster, and cheaper, okay? And in that order. So this is typically how thinking goes in a lot of companies. We think about, we want market share. We want to take over some market share. Okay, so how are we going to take over some market share? Okay, we got to be more efficient. We're going to lower our price a little bit. We got to beat our competitors. So we're going to be a little bit cheaper. And we made that decision in the boardroom, my favorite place. Don't even get me started. Don't make decisions in the boardroom. So we decided in the boardroom we're going to make things cheaper. And your management team is all on board. And we decided the only way to make things cheaper is to produce them faster. Right. So now everybody's on board because you've got the best team in the world, no pushback. Leadership goes out to the shop floor, rallies everybody up and says, guys, we got this great plan. We're going to take over these new customers, whatever it is. Now, all we have to do is make everything faster. Are you ready to do that? You've got the best team in the world, right? So everybody's just like, yeah, let's do it. We're going to build everything faster. And they run out in the shop and they all start building things faster. What happens right away? Yeah, your quality tanks. The only way to guarantee that you're going to build something twice is to write rush on the work order. Every single time. Maybe 3 times if you're really in a hurry. Okay? We have banned that from my factory. You're not allowed to write rush, hot, no red ink at all. Just put it next in line and you're done. So we got quality tanking, and then now we got rework out of control. We've still got our faster, faster, faster mentality going on, push from the top. Did anybody's job get easier? Not a chance. Period. So that's why our businesses suck so bad most of the time and we have so much stress. Now let's look at it the other way. We're going to start at the top. We're going to make all of our focus, 100% of our focus, making your job easier. I'm going to make your job easier all day. That's all I'm focused on. Now, through making his job easier, we've managed to free up 10 minutes that we didn't have. So now, instead of looking at that counter or whatever you're making going, oh, that's a scratch. Now, show of hands, who's tried to lick scratches off before? Huh? Yeah, everybody like, oh shit, that's got to ship today. Oh my God, that's it. Yeah. Okay, ship it. As long as it stays wet for 3 days, it'll be fine, right? Yeah. So now we have, oh, a scratch. Oh, wait a sec. I actually have a few minutes. Why don't I just take the time to fix that? So my job got easier. What happens to quality? quality starts going up. Now, strange thing with that is when we focus on quality at the source and quality starts going up, what happens to rework? It goes down. So now instead of spending 70% of our day doing work, 30% doing rework, we're doing 95% of our normal work. So we're actually building things faster. Now that we've got quality figured out, we're building things faster. If we so choose, we can either make it cheaper, but definitely the cost of producing it is cheaper. So, to recap, when we started the first scenario, what were we thinking about first? When we down here, what are we thinking about when you see that word? Yeah, money. Now, when we make everyone's job easier, what are you thinking about? Whose job am I making easier? People. Okay? So you're picking up what I'm putting down. When you think about money first, your decision's going to suck. When you think about people first, your decision's going to be great every single time. So I want to encourage everybody to start at the top and just focus on making everything easier. When you do it this way, remember we had cheaper, we had a meeting, we had to rally the troops, we had to go out onto the shop floor and get everybody pumped up, and they had to run out and start making things. Like these levels of management was crazy. The other way is just like, hey, what can I do for you today to make your job easier? Oh, cool, okay, I'm going to do that. And then all those other things just happen. Zero intervention, zero meetings, zero anything. It just happens. And if you need any more proof, I think Guy's story of $1.2 million in savings on a project, I mean, that's not bad. If I had, I can't even think in numbers that big. So amazing, right? So is everybody with me on this so far? Think that's a good idea? That's good. I'd love to take credit. I can't. That's Taiichi Ono, the Toyota brilliant genius that comes up with this, not me. I just tell people about it. Okay, so the other thing you have to do when you decide lean is for me, which I know, show of hands, who's going to decide lean's for them by the end of tonight? Oh man, there's a couple of you. I hope you're not competitors, because if you just had your hand down, someone else will be eating your lunch in a couple of months. You have to decide to burn the ships. Does anyone know where this saying came from? Come on, some history buffs? I don't think so. Cortez? Anyone know of Cortez? Anyway, I'm not a history major, so even if the story's wrong, here's the long and short of it. They pulled up on shore, and the soldiers all got off the boat, and they looked and went, oh my God, there's 3,000 of us, and there's 30,000 of them. Everybody back on the boats. We're out of here. And Cortez said, burn the ships. So there was no turning back. They set the boats on fire. They decided, I have no choice. I have to fight. Who do you think won? The underdog. So you have to have that mentality of burning the ships. You can't be wavering. You can't be thinking about it. You can't be dipping your toes in it. If you're going to do that, you have to do that as a one-person show. Learn it, understand it, read the books, and go, okay, yeah, I'm convinced this is it. Because I'll tell you, if the top management is not in, it's over. Don't even think about it. You cannot hire out lean. You cannot outsource lean. You at the top have to be doing it. What's important to you will be important to everybody. You can't delegate lean unless, of course, you're just going to leave the building altogether. Then absolutely, if you're going to, if you're like, this sounds fun, I don't want to be part of it, but you put someone in charge, that's okay as long as you're not around much. So you have to have that mentality of burning the ships because it's going to suck at first. Do we have any people that can play the guitar or anything? Guitar players, couple? Okay. So when you first picked up a guitar, did you just rattle off some Jimmy Page? Yeah, totally, right? I mean, so this is no different. This is like learning something new, and you're going to suck in the beginning, and that's okay. The fact is you've picked up the instrument and you're trying to play. So we would show this slide, and we got an email from a customer that was actually very entertaining, and he said, you need to change your burn the ships slide to burn the carts. Because you can tell who's doing lean because he laughed. This is what happens in your factory. Right now, you're probably going, oh my God, if I just had more carts, we could produce more stuff. And as soon as you start going lean, and as soon as you start reducing your inventory, creating flow, 3Sing, all that stuff, you look in your parking lot and there's nothing but carts. They're piling up everywhere, and you're like, oh my God, I can't believe I thought I needed another cart. So burn the carts. Are we keeping up okay? Are we doing okay? All right. So we're going to get into waste. Who wants to learn the 7 deadly wastes? I'm going to go home. Who wants to learn the 7 deadly wastes? Say aye if you want to learn the 7 deadly wastes. All right. Now I want to tell you something. That's cool. Okay. So these 7 deadly wastes, again, I can't take any credit. The geniuses at Toyota have got all this figured out. But everything that you suffer from in your business and consequently in your personal life are all in 7 categories. And once you can see them, then you see them everywhere. I will apologize to you now, because what you can't do is unsee them. You're going to walk out of here seeing waste everywhere, and with any luck, it makes you crazy, and we start fixing it. We can change the world. So that's the 7 wastes. We're going to talk about each one. But first, before we do, there's some rules that we want to just go over quickly when it comes to waste. And the first rule is you have to see it for what it is. Some wastes are, like if I wanted to carry a piece of wood from my storage rack to a machine, that's waste. That carrying is waste, motion transportation. But it's got to get there. But first, you have to see it for what it is. You can't say, well, it's got to get there, I need it. No. First, you have to say, I see that waste, and I will go after it one day, but maybe today is not the day. But see it for what it is first. The other one is when you see a little bit of waste, and you're like, so what? He's not putting his tool away, or it's just 2 steps. You got to see that for what it is, because when I see someone taking 2 unnecessary steps, you might think it's a little goldfish, but that's what I see. I see this monster eating your profits. When we were in Japan, they taught us, they said, 1 step, 1 second, 1 yen. How much do you want to pay? And as soon as it was put in that, it's like, oh my God, yeah, every time like cha-ching, cha-ching, cha-ching with your money all day. Cha-ching, 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 pushing carts, cha-ching, cha-ching, right? So you got to see it for what it is, and then we're going to get rid of it. The other one is you want it. I mean, for everybody who teaches lean, talks about lean, there's different lingo, and you're going to hear for sure the elimination of waste. And I just kind of want to, you might even catch me saying it, but I kind of want to turn a little spin on that and say reduce waste. Because what happens is you're going to go out and you're going to talk to somebody and you're going to say, hey, we're going to eliminate waste. And the guy is going to have that same scenario. Well, I got to get the wood from the rack to the saw, and you're telling me that's waste, okay, and now I have to eliminate it. Well, right away, my brain says, impossible. Done. I'm already done thinking about it because I know it's impossible. So you want to be careful when you say eliminate. So if you say reduce, whole different ballgame, right? You're like, now you can say, how far do you move that wood from the rack to the saw? Oh, it's 50 feet. Can you make it 48? Probably. So right away, you just have that, you're not shutting people down when you're talking about it. So try and use the word reduce and not eliminate, even though probably most of the industry says the elimination of waste. The other one is to trade down. Show of hands, who knows how to play chess? Cool. Lots of chess players. So in the game of chess, you would gladly trade a pawn to get a queen. Waste is the same thing. When you know them and you understand them, you can go after the right ones instead of, you know, leaving a monster amount of waste because you can see this one, or because you don't want to get rid of that, because you don't want to get rid of that other one. So you want to be trading down. So when you know what the impact is of each one of the waste, then you can make that mental decision of, hey, I'm going to get rid of this big one. It's going to cause this little one, but I'm okay with that because I've traded down. And now when the dust settles, I'm going to go get rid of that one too. But we're going to talk about every one of them so you'll know which one's worse and how to trade down. So just keep that in mind. First one is waste of transportation. This one is anything in your factory that's moving up, your materials moving around your plant is transportation waste. So the important thing to understand here is there's another waste called motion, which we'll talk about, but they get intermingled. Just try and keep them separate. Transportation waste is your stuff moving, not you. Now, it's pretty rare that something moves across the shop without a human being attached to it, so those two are buddies. But when we talk about transportation waste, it's just the parts. So we saw an absolute ton of transportation waste today in those factories with all the conveyors moving those parts around, right? Now, we wouldn't look at that and think, well, that's waste. How could that be waste? It looked super efficient, super awesome. No one was moving. There's wood flying everywhere. But again, see it for what it is. If a board has to move from there to there, that's waste. Why isn't it only moving to here and then here? Why does it have to go that far to get to the next process? So by automating it, you make that waste a little more bearable. Definitely, I would way rather have a conveyor pushing something than a person pushing something, but it's still transportation waste. So let's watch a little video that's sped up like 1,000 times because it's painful. And yeah, let's just watch. Come on, buddy. And I'm going to make you sit through the whole thing so you can feel the pain. And this is at like 10 times the speed. There's another little trick at work here, which I don't have anywhere in the slides, but this is a good opportunity to talk about it, is the power of videos. Because this guy has no idea what he's doing. He's on a mission, and he's executing that mission, end of story, and he's not stopping till he's done. That's what we want all of our good employees to do. But when you play back this video and show them what's actually happening, it's like a whole nother world. Yeah. Final Cut. iMovie doesn't go that fast. So when we're watching this, like, who's feeling the pain here? Like, oh my God, how could this possibly be happening? I will bet my bottom dollar I could come to anyone's factory, including mine, and take a video just like this one in your factories. One board. That's what he was after. One piece of wood. So that just ties into like a ton of the other waste, but why did he need one board? Probably because there was a defect. They ran out of material. He had to go back into the pile for one board. Nightmare. But that was a whole lot of transportation waste going on. And it's easy to see. This will be the one you see everywhere. When you go back to your factories and just stand in the corner for 10 minutes, you'll go crazy. You'll see this one. It jumps right out at you. Next one is inventory. How many types of inventory are there? How many types of inventory are there? Give me one.
Stock inventory.
Stock, like your stuff like raw goods. Yep. That's one. Raw goods. Next. Work in progress. Other one? Finished goods. And the last one? You guys probably don't have the last one, so it's probably a moot point, but we'll mention it just in case. Anyone? Yeah, close. Obsolete inventory. That stuff that's been up in the corner or on the mezzanine, or we can't bring ourselves to throw it away yet because we paid our hard-earned money for it, but it's consuming a lot of space in our factories. So here's a couple of interesting facts. This one is directly related to your lead time. It could almost be a mathematical calculation. If you tell me how much work you have in the pipeline, I'll tell you how long your lead time is. The less work you have in your pipeline, the shorter your lead time. So if you want to reduce your time to deliver to your customers, start reducing your work in process. Where is it most expensive? Right here, right? I mean, that's the one you want to get out of your building. You've got all of your money tied up into it at that point. So here is the thing with inventory. You just imagine your boat is sailing along. The water is your inventory level. The rocks are waste. The more inventory you hold in your plant, the more you think things are going smooth because you're unaware of what's actually happening. All those rocks are still there, and you're paying for them. Those rocks are like alligators chomping at your ankles all day long. You didn't even know what's happening when you have a high enough inventory because you don't notice that vendors are delivering late. You don't notice that your operators maybe are producing a bad part now and then. You got so much inventory that it's like, toss it, make a new one. So there's a lot of things that are happening. You're still paying for them, but you just don't know about them. So the trick is you start lowering your inventory, and it starts exposing those rocks. And that's why you hear people talking about small batch sizes. So whatever batch size you're producing now, if you are curious and want to find out which waste you have, start reducing that batch size. But don't go crazy. I mean, maybe you'll leave here and you'll read a book and it'll talk about single piece flow. Whatever you do, do not go back to your factories and try and make things one at a time. You'll be bankrupt tomorrow. So inventory hides your problems. And when you start to bring it down, you want to bring it down slow because your problems are going to start sticking out of that water. And if you go from here to here, it's going to be too much. It's going to be overwhelming. You'll be too lean, too fast. It'll hurt way too much, and your lean transformation will be dead in the water. Dead in the water. That's funny. So bring it down slow, expose the waste slow, solve your problems as you bump into them, and then lower again. Make sense? Cool. Waste of motion. We kind of touched on this one a little bit with transportation. The important part about motion is to know that that's people moving. Okay, this, hands and feet. That's what motion is. So whether you're wandering around the factory or you're just, searching for tools or looking, your body moving is motion. And if you're not adding value, we should talk about that. Okay. The difference between value-added activity and non-value-added activity is and when you understand what's value-added, that's why you probably saw that first slide and said, this is crazy. There's no way 95% of everything I do all day is waste. Value-added component of our day is truly 5%, and 5% might be high. So what that means is everything we're doing outside of the part changing shape to be closer to the finished product that our customer is paying for is waste. So if I have a piece of wood, I'll run you through a little scenario. I pick up the piece of wood. I go to the saw. I set it on the saw. I turn on the saw. I start cutting. I get rid of the scrap. I put the other piece on the cart. I take the cart and I go somewhere else. That's one snapshot of a process. But I'll outline the waste. So I pick up the piece of wood. Any value being added? None. Walking to the saw. Any value being added? None. Set it on the saw. Any value being added? None. Turning on the saw. Any value being added? None. Lining it up on the fence. Any value being added? None. It's not until the blade touches the wood. Now the value is being added. The second the blade comes out of the wood, no more value is being added. So when you look at that process, that could be a 3 to 5 minute process. How much value added time was this? Zing. That was it. Like 4 or 5 seconds out of that 3 or 4 minute process. So another cool way to look at it that's easy to understand for anyone that you're trying to explain it to is you get up in the morning and you have morning breath. When does that start going away is the value added portion of brushing your teeth. Do you still have bad breath when you're putting the toothpaste on the brush? You do. Turning on the water. It's not until you start brushing that the value is being added. So I found that as a good teaching tool for people to get their heads around. So when we're talking about a waste of motion, anything that my body is doing that is not contributing to the part changing shape is going to be considered a waste of motion. Here's another short video, almost just as painful as the first one, but there's some other things going on in this video that I would like we're going to talk quickly about that's happening in the peripheral. Am I in your way? Can you see? Sorry. I couldn't make this up. So can you notice any improvements that maybe we could make to this process? He's taking the part from the table and putting it onto the cart, and she's walking over to the cart to bring it back to her table, which is ironically right behind him. So there was a lot of wasted motion going on in that little work cell. And in their defense, this company is in California, and when we got there, their door department was like so far behind. They had these screens, and they were just all red. I don't know what they meant, but red was bad. And this team, after less than a week of training, went from this chaos to making a finished door from start to finish in less than 2 minutes. It was like unbelievable, these people. It was crazy. So it's not the people. They're stuck in a bad process. Someone set up this process and taught them how to do it, and they're doing it, and they think they're doing good. The other ironic part is everything's on wheels. I mean, they did good. Everything's on wheels. But they didn't take 2 seconds to stop and go, hey, let's think about this. If we just rearrange everything, off we go. It's one of the benefits to having everything on wheels. One of my good buddies, Greg Glebe from Xylem Design, says no monuments. So don't have anything in your shop that can't be moved, barring big equipment. So That is a shining example of some wasted motion. Waiting. This could be waiting for anything. Does anyone wait for anything in their factories? No one? Just a couple. What do you wait for?
Perfect. No, I'm perfect.
Oh, you're perfect. What do you wait for?
Information all the time.
Information. Oh, yeah. I mean, and I think if you talk to the custom guys, you know, trying to get information out of customers is like trying to pull teeth sometimes. So yeah, so waiting. Waiting could be, I'm waiting for drawings. Waiting could be for, I'm waiting for equipment availability. I mean, anytime you're physically needing something, and then what happens, you go off onto task B instead of the thing you should be working on because you're waiting for something. Now you entertain yourself with this other thing, which is, you know, maybe not so hot. Pretty much just puts you into a multitasking mind frame, which don't even get me started. We can't multitask as humans, period. If you think you're a good multitasker, come see me after. We'll do a little exercise. So waiting for anything. Now, one really cool thing about waiting that I like to consider is consider your parts as people, and they can wait too. So imagine how you would feel if you're a stack, they're piling us, all of us in this room, onto this cart, and all I want to do is, or no, I mean, even better, we're in line at the bank, okay? And I'm next, and the teller is open, and I want to go and do my banking, and someone's going, no, you have to wait for 150 of your friends to show up first. And they're slowly piling in line. And then all 150 of us are going to run up to that teller at the same time. Not a good scenario, right? So when you think of your parts as people, if you personify them and you start feeling sorry for them, looking like in piles all over your shop, like, why aren't you guys going to where you need to be? Come on, Paul.
The most common waste I see everywhere I go is people waiting. Businesses don't understand that the customer's time is valuable, but yet they make them wait everywhere I go. If business owners understood there's no value-added activity in making their customer wait, they would never allow this to happen. The waste of waiting is everywhere we go. Become a lean thinker, respect your customers, and never make them wait again.
All right, the waste of processing. So I used to say over-processing or under-processing until I visited my buddy Jeff Koss at a company called Koss Tailored, probably the leanest company in North America. And he enlightened me and added a third one on there. And he says, you know, we can over-process, we can under-process, and then typically we could just have a shitty process. So some of us are stuck in that. But the waste of processing is either doing too much work to something that the customer is not willing to pay for. So I think of sanding, you know, I think of when I sand a board, at some point, that board is sanded. If it's 6 strokes, 7 strokes, 8, whatever it is, and then if you keep going, 9, 10, 11, it doesn't change. Nothing changes past when it's ready. So that would be over-processing. So here's another example of over-processing. That was a whole lot of work that probably didn't need to get done. This is probably caused by what we call silo thinking, which is I'm just thinking about me. I'm not thinking about the guy after me or the guy before me or the girl after me or the girl before me. So these guys probably could have just talked to the saw operator or the miter saw operator. He handled every single one of those pieces, one at a time. Why didn't they get delivered? in those piles. And probably 99% of the time is just because no one asked. And as soon as you go ask, the guy's like, yeah, no problem, man. I'll stack them however you want. What do I care? I'm just stacking them anyway. So good example of over-processing. The videos are never playing on the first click.
So team treatment is a way to target processing waste. And when we think of processing, we think of over, under, and shitty. So most companies have shitty processing. So that means they don't have a process. Without standard work, you can't improve it, so forget about it. Yeah. Under processing is when the task is, or the process is missing something important. So an example of under processing is email. If you email somebody something complex, you're not sending your body language. Human beings communicate 80% body language. So this is why I want to FaceTime with you guys. I don't want to email. I don't want to call. Please forget about it. So in our consulting time, like if you want to FaceTime me, I won't help you. Sorry, I'm not going to do that. Email is an example of something that's under the actual when you're typing. It's under process. Now we use email, but I might get 3 or 4 a day internally. It's usually not even.
So I like that one because I know that I'm a victim of it all the time, where you type an email to someone and you under-process it because probably you're in a hurry, or because it's email and it's, it can be taken 25 different ways. And then they respond with like something wrong or a question, and then you start getting angry at your keyboard and you start hitting it just a little hard, like, why can't this guy understand what I'm after? And I just think that's such a good example that I learned from Jeff, and I would have never thought of that. So now I'm, even in my own world, I'm trying to cut down on emails. We're so quick to jump on the email and so slow to pick up the phone and actually make contact with a human being. In a 30-second phone call, you can get rid of about 100 emails. So let's see if I can pause this sucker. The next one is overproduction. So overproduction is making anything in excess of the next station's ability to consume it. So you might talk to some people that think overprocessing is just making something you haven't sold. That is, and that's bad, but that's not always true. That is, you can reel that back right into your factory, and if I'm making 10 widgets an hour and the person right after me can only process 7, but I'm in my silo, remember I'm not thinking about anything on either side, and I'm being judged on like machine uptime or utilization or something. We like to, like how many times have you said or heard someone say like, that machine's got to be running. We got to keep that machine running. We're making money when that machine's running. So I'm going to continue to make my 10 widgets, and the person after me is only consuming 7. So I'm overproducing by 3 widgets every hour. And all that does is create piles of inventory in between us and a host of other not cool things. So we're going to watch Dale here for a minute. It's dinner time. This is a dangerous video to watch. I don't want to burst Dale's bubble, so I haven't phoned him yet. But the reality is how many boxes do we need? One for every pizza. Yeah, I mean, I personally have never ordered a pizza and got 2 boxes with it. Always one. I have also never ordered a pizza and not got a box with it. So those 2 things are pretty joined at the hip. So then Dale, I hate to break his heart because he makes a box every 0.2 seconds or whatever it is. How long do we have to make a box?
10 minutes.
Exactly. We've got 10 minutes. We're only making a box for every pizza. So the whole room full of boxes there, totally not necessary. So that's overproduction. And then defective output, I mean, this one, like, nobody here ever makes any defects, right? No, perfect. So we don't need to talk about that. It's pretty self-explanatory. If you make something that your customer is not willing to pay for, I know at my factory we almost specialize in it, so I don't know I don't know if any of you suffer the same ill effects, but basically any part that's no good that you have to go back and remake is considered a defect. Oh, one fun fact about defects is for us, I can tell you if we on average get $26 a door and someone wrecks a door, right away they're just like, oh yeah, okay, I guess it cost us $26. And I'm like, what did it really cost us? $26 for the door you wrecked, $26 because we got to make it again, and guess what? Well, we're making this one because you wrecked this one. We should have been making this one. So when you're calculating your defective output, like forget all the soft costs, but your hard costs are ×3 of whatever that thing costs. And that's a big eye-opener sometimes when someone's like, oh, geez, I just dropped that and that was $100. I'm like, yeah, that was $100. Thanks. Please don't do that again. So defective output, that's... Now, when we look at all 7 of these, I'm going to query everybody. Which one's the worst one? No. Worst one of the bunch.
Defective output.
Defective output. Faster, faster. Defective, 2 for defective output. 1 from this table. Defective output. Motion. Motion. Waiting. Inventory. Pardon? Defects. Pardon? Transportation. Defects. Inventory. From this table. Pardon? Defective and waiting. Okay, what about you guys? All of them. Let me tell you a funny story about that at the end of this. What do you guys think?
Defective output.
Defective output. Okay, so if it was a vote, defective output would have won. However, it's not. The worst one of the bunch is overprocessing. And you're thinking, why? So just for fun, I'll tell you a little story. So, sorry, not overprocessing, I just lied to you. Overproduction. That's funny, not really. So overproduction is the worst one. So why is overproduction the worst one? Remember we talked about transportation and motion? I could be transporting something, and if it's like a part and I'm doing it, now I have transportation and motion, and they're buddies and they hang out. Like waste is like fish, they swim together. So overproduction is the only one of the bunch that instantly engages all the other ones. The second you overproduce, you do all the other ones like that. That moment. So transportation and motion, they could be buddies all by themselves and hang around and carry stuff around your factory. But the second you overproduce, so if we say we make some parts and we're overproducing, the minute we go into an overproduction state, what happens? We start building up inventory. So now I have a pile between me and you. Well, that's going to get in the way. Someone has to move it. So now we get our forklift drivers, pump trucks, whatever in there, carts. So now we have transportation and motion. We've created the inventory. Those parts are now in a pile waiting for the next process. So they're waiting. Every single time you make a pile of something, I will bet my life that there's a defect in it. Every time. Batches are the antithesis of mistakes hiding and waiting to happen. If you don't tip over the cart or run into it or do something, there's probably a bad part hiding in there, and then you're going to have to make it again, which is going to tie you into overprocessing. So overproduction is the mother lode of all waste, and it's the first thing we look for everywhere we go into a factory, and everyone's just like, oh my God, you guys are, wow, it's incredible, you know, and all we did was just cut off the overproduction and then drain the factory. We call it draining the swamp, and then you just produce. That's a whole nother story. But anyway, subordinate to your bottleneck. But that's the mother lode. Does that make sense? Everybody on board? Yeah. You're like, I'm so friggin' hungry. I just want you to shut up so I can go get some hors d'oeuvres. We're almost done. So Here's a really easy way to remember them so that you never forget them. Tim Wood, he's your most expensive employee by the tune of probably millions of dollars for most of us. And they all fall in line. Get it? Transportation, inventory, motion, waiting, overprocessing, overproduction, and defects. Is everybody going to be able to remember Tim Wood? Okay, let's make sure. So on the count of 3, the whole room is going to scream out at the top of their lungs in order the 7 deadly wastes. Are you ready? 1, let me just say this. I will say the letter, you say the waste, so it's not like out of control. All right, are we ready? Ready. Are we ready? Yeah. Okay, you're awake, good. Okay, so T, I, M, W, W, O, O, D. So you notice how I just kind of like trailed off. If there was like 3 more wastes, it would have been over. So thank God there's only 7. All right, good job, crew. So quick question for everybody usually asks, where do I get started? I recommend these 2 books to start your lean journey. 2 Second Lean, phenomenal book by my buddy Paul Akers. Makes continuous improvement and going lean so simple and easy and fun. Best book on lean on the market as far as I'm concerned. And then How to Win Friends and Influence People. This one's been around forever, but basically I would like you to read this one so you don't piss everybody in your factory off while you're doing that one. That's pretty much how that goes down. So 2 good books. Highly recommend getting those 2 to get your lean journey kicked off. And just do it yourself first. Just get the book, read it. Make sure you're in. Make sure you're like, yeah, this is the stuff. And then start to roll it out. One quick video.
I'm going to explain today what this beer and your lean transformation have in common when it comes to your company culture. So where's all the beer coming from? It's coming from the top. All of the support is from the top. But the glass fills from the bottom up. It's a universal principle that not even filling a glass could deny. So we live in this crazy now world where everything is now. We want everything right away. Well, unfortunately, lean is one of those things that just doesn't happen right away. So once again, we're going to demonstrate using this beer what happens to a lean transformation that's being rushed. You just get a big old mess. The old adage holds true. Slow and steady wins the race.
So we got one last little clip here to watch, and then you're free to go. This was a cabinet shop. They make doors, they make cabinets, and they make their own doors, and we were working in their door department, and they thought I was crazy when I told them I want to build things one at a time. They're like, that's never going to work. We get that a lot. And I said, okay, I'll tell you what, take your next order and split it in half, and you do your half, and then let me run the other half, and let's see how it goes. And probably these tables are a good example. The table saw where they cut the panel was here. Then it had to go to a radial arm saw that was over here, maybe even further, to be honest. And then it went to a shaper where they did some shaping or whatever, and then assembly in the corner. And they said, so you're telling me you want me to cut one piece of wood and carry it over there to him and come back and cut another one piece of wood, and he's going to cut that one? And I said, yeah, that's exactly what I'm asking. He's like, you're nuts. They couldn't wait to prove me wrong. And they did their doors. They had an order. I think it was like 60 doors or something. And I very, very patiently just timed it. And I think it took them, by the time it started and it was all done, I'm guessing it was a few years ago, but maybe like 6 hours, something like that, from start to finish. And then we started doing it in a lean single-piece flow fashion. And this is what happened.
Hey guys, 35 minutes in, we're putting it all together. This is awesome, badass, whatever you want to call it, man. It's awesome. We got doors ready. Yes. Woo!
So that's what lean can feel like right there. And I think we had ours done in 45 or 50 minutes compared to 6 hours, and it seemed insane. So that's all I got for you folks today. I hope that you were able to take something from that and go forth and be lean. And if you have any questions, comments, concerns, you want to reach out 24/7. Anyone here can email me, call me, whatever you want. I'm here to help you if I can. All right, you're free to go. Thank you.